The MG42 is the light machine gun you will unlock when you prestige the Armored Division, and this LMG is insanely powerful and consistent, so you should definitely work on prestiging this division and unlocking this weapon if you haven't already. Starting off with damage, this weapon will be a 4-hit kill pretty much forever. It does drop off to a 5-hit, but that's at an absurd range that really won't ever happen in Call of Duty World War II. I don't even think that range will occur on Gustav Canyon, so this weapon is pretty much always going to be a 4-hit kill unless you're shooting through like objects or something. So it's an insanely good damage. A lot of guns only kill in 4 hits for like a short period of time, or maybe they only kill in 3 for a short period of time. So this weapon being a 4-hit pretty much all the time is a very good consistent damage for Call of Duty World War II, and it's going to feel very consistent, and it's just going to feel the same regardless of how far away your target is. The fire rate of this weapon is 652 RPM, and with rapid fire it will be around 700 RPM. And I'm going to recommend using rapid fire once you have it unlocked, because this weapon also has very clear iron sights and very low recoil, meaning you don't really have to worry about attachments like sights or grip. And since it has very low recoil already, you can put on rapid fire, and then you're really not even going to suffer at all because the gun has very low recoil, and even with rapid fire it still has very low recoil. So you don't have to worry about not taking rapid fire because of the potential recoil. It's got very good damage, very high fire rate, very low recoil that makes it insanely deadly regardless of how far away the target is. This weapon also has very low idle sway, which is nice because idle sway is something that makes gunfights very random, especially like longer range gunfights. So not having a lot of idle sway is nice. If it did have a lot of idle sway, you would probably have to run the scoped perk to combat that idle sway, but since there's the very little idle sway, you don't have to worry about running the scoped perk at all, and it's just like a little check in the box of another good thing for this weapon. This weapon has a disappointing mag size for what I expect from an LMG at 50 rounds, but if you put on extended mags, it actually does go up to 100, which is great, and it's kind of like the baseline from what I expect for an LMG, and at least other Call of Duty titles. In this game, a lot of the LMGs have lower mag size, like as you can see this one's 50, but once you put on extended mags, it gets up to what you would expect from an LMG, and I am going to recommend you put on extended mag. I also like to run the hustle basic training so I can reload faster, especially if you don't have extended mag unlocked. And just because this weapon doesn't need a bunch of attachments, you don't need scoped or primed to combat idle sway and get extra attachments. It's just the basic training is really wide open for this gun, so that's why I like to run the hustle basic training. I think you can see just by the things I've already said, very good damage that's consistent, very good fire rate, very low recoil, and a good mag size once you have extended mag, good iron sights, no idle sway. This weapon is very, very powerful, and it has a lot of good things going for it. Obviously, it has the traditional LMG downsides. That's a very slow feeling and handling weapon, and it also has a very slow reload time, which we are addressing by using the hustle basic training, but even with hustle, it has quite a long reload time. So if you can get over the sluggish attributes of this weapon, you're going to have a very dominant weapon that's going to kill very quickly if the enemy ever does peek into you. I like to use the infantry division with this weapon so I can have an extra attachment slot, extra ammo, because this weapon does have a pretty good fire rate, so you just want to never have to worry about ammo, and increased movement speed while ADS, which is something that I love. I love being able to strafe. Unfortunately, with LMGs in this game, once you start shooting, if you have the infantry division or the scoped perk, you can strafe, but once you start shooting, you're pretty much stuck. So keep that in mind, but I still like this ability, and I still like to strafe before I'm able to start shooting, before I fight the battle rather. Strafe in and out of cover before you fight the battle. Even with the sluggish attributes, once you start firing, I still think this perk is worth it, and that's one of the reasons why I am taking the infantry division. So I can have this ability to strafe, and I can still have the hustle basic training. And you really don't need to worry about running the armored division for the bipod or anything, because like I said, this weapon already has very low recoil and very low idle sway, so there really isn't a reason why I would ever use the bipod with this weapon. For my class setup for this weapon, I like to use quick draw, extended mags, and rapid fire, and then like I said, the hustle basic training. Like I said before, you don't really have to worry about sights or a grip for this weapon, and the only other options are really steady aim or FMJ, which are both good options, but I found the most success with these 3 attachments. If I was going to take the primed basic training and have a 4th attachment, I would probably pick FMJ just so I could shoot through stuff, but the 4th attachment really isn't required for this weapon. Even without FMJ, you can wallbang quite well with this weapon because it has a very high fire rate. With something like the Lewis gun, you're going to want FMJ because it shoots slower and hits hard, but with this, you're just throwing out a bunch of bullets really fast, so you really don't need FMJ that much. There are some things that I think you can't shoot through unless you have FMJ, but for most cover in this game, you're going to be able to shoot through it just fine with this weapon just because of its high fire rate. A slower fire rate weapon, I would definitely recommend FMJ to shoot through things, or if it had a lower penetration. But this weapon's high fire rate and already good penetration makes it to where FMJ isn't required. It would be nice if you really wanted to take prime just for flinch and you didn't mind the reload speed, then sure, take FMJ, but it isn't required. Like I said, the 3 attachments I mainly use are quick draw, extended mags, and rapid fire. With this weapon, just play like you would with any other LMG, play around map control and hold lanes. With this weapon's low recoil, high fire rate, and consistently good damage, you'll be able to easily punish like any players that expose themselves to, or get in the way anybody that tries to rush you. You're going to mow through them very quickly, and if you're good at like this type of playstyle, you're good at staying alive, you're going to be a real burden to deal with, because it's very hard to beat the MG42 in any sort of gunfight unless you get sniped. On larger maps, I would probably pick the Lewis gun for this playstyle, but maps like London Docks, Ardennes Forest, or Flag Tower, I think the MG42 will be a great weapon, and I've found a lot of success using this weapon on those maps, especially once I had rapid fire unlocked. Like I said before, this weapon has very good fire rate, very good iron sights, good consistent damage, very low recoil, and no idle sway. Really the only negatives to this weapon are the traditional LMG negatives, which are a sluggish movement speed, the fact that you get stuck once you start shooting, even if you do have the perks that allows you to strafe, and the slow reload speed. So if you can get over those things, or you can just like adapt your playstyle around them, you're going to have a very good and a very like powerful weapon in the MG42. That's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, please give it a like rating and subscribe for future videos. Thank you for watching.
Kill denied. Kill confirmed.